of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Hello and welcome to a brand new season of the Race Hour podcast. This year sponsored by our old friends Gambling.com and a new friend, Betfred. Now, I googled the net worth of Fred Dunn. Would you believe, you wouldn't have a hope against this, right? £1.9 billion. £1.9 billion, and that has meant I didn't even think that'd be enough, but it's enough to get a new signing. Tony Keenan, the Monaghan legend, is on board. Tony, how are you?
Good, Stephen. How are you?
I'm good. Had you a good weekend up in Monaghan? When you're being a teacher now, you had another week off. That must have been hard for you.
Yeah, tough come back yesterday, Stephen. Very tough. I didn't have a racing weekend at all. I was doing GEA stuff the whole weekend. We had a reunion 25 years on from winning the minor championship in 1989 with Ballybay Pierce brothers. I have to confess I wasn't a major part of it. I was a sub. I was there along the line, but we had a great day's crack. Bit of a match and a bit of a get together at even. Great to meet up with lads you haven't seen in a while. So I just catching up with the Royal stuff then Monday and today.
Fair play. I'd say the hamstrings are struggling now playing football at our age. Diarmuid, Nolan, I like by law I have to go to Diarmuid, Nolan first, but we've had such technical issues getting going here. I'm completely rattled, and I just couldn't. I just went too soon. Tony Keenan is on board. I got very excited, but look, Diarmuid, can we pretend you were number one and we went to you first and we still love you the most?
Look, we know who our big money signing is. It'd be like going to Carlos Puyol ahead of Messi here or something. But the all I was thinking there was I don't think 1.9 million would even buy you a bottle of wine and El Casinco, would it?
Well, if you're on Primor, there's a few you get a couple of cases maybe, but yeah, that's about it.
And a Christmas hamper thrown in there, would you?
Yeah.
No. All's good, Cass. All's good.
Good. Well, it's good. It's good to be back, and welcome back to all our listeners, and thanks for sticking with us. Like and subscribe. We're doing this. I'm doing it 6 or 7 years. Dermot, you're doing this for 25 years. I don't think we've ever said the words like and subscribe and comment. Do all that stuff. We'll be gone next year. Right. Okay. Yeah. Now, so we're going to have a quick look at the season ahead, horses to follow, any ante-post bets, and then we'll have a look back at the racing that was at the weekend. So, Dermot, I'm going to stick with you. Give us, if you have a dark horse to follow or a more obvious one, what kind of horses are you looking for in terms of a whole season preview, and any bets you might have around those?
Yeah, look, all the obvious ones for me is obviously I really fancy Firefox for an Arkle. I really fancy Monty Star, obviously, Cass. I'm not going to shut up about him all year until he's beaten again. But they're not dark, really. The one I really liked from last year's Punchestown Festival was Back to Normal for Gavin Cromwell. Didn't get an awful lot of attention because he only won in all the kind of auction hurdle there. But he beat Answer to Cafe and he absolutely battered him. Now this Back to Normal, it was his first run since joining from Mags Mullins. Now this isn't a massively high level, but he just looked like he was well ahead of them. Knowing Cromwell, I'd say we won't see the best of him now until the application of money and an all run now in April or kind of March time. But he looked really good. I assume he's going chasing because he's a son of Milan, so I assume that. But he's definitely one cast that I'm looking forward to. And yeah, he'd be the kind of horse now that I like to kind of follow through the whole season, because he could end up in a Kimwere off 145 and dot round. You know what I mean? So he could be just a step above now as to what he might end up getting as a mark. You know.
Yeah, I was just thinking Kim Muir there myself with Gavin Cromwell won the race last year, but I know you're ready thinking that could be a good shout, but not one for a bet yet. No. Tony, what about you? I hope you actually have a bet here on like Dermo there.
Yeah, I'll give you maybe my bet first and then come back to the dark horse. I'm actually not a massive lover of anti-post. I've kind of gone off it a little bit, but seeing as Jeremy threatened me with sack next week if I didn't come up with something, I said I bet I'd come up with a selection. I'm going to go with a horse that ran over the weekend, and hopefully he's going to pitch up again in the Betfred chase, Hewick. I'm not that convinced with his King George form last year. I think that was kind of a flaky bit of form, a funny race against a lot of horses that were on the downgrade. But I think what he did in spring is very solid. I think you can certainly make a case he was third to two best chasers around in Galloping the Champs and Faster Slow. No, Faster Slow is the better one at possibly a Punchestown. That was an excellent run anyway. France, I'm not sure how you pronounce this horse, Calem or Calame. Obviously, that horse is actually was favoured for the Stayers last year before it didn't make the jury. That was an excellent run. ran back a punch down, presumably needed the run, pitched up the right of the weekend. I would say it was just on favoured by the speed test there. And by Allen's a fast horse around the Riot. Would suit a horse like Hewick and a lot more. I was just looking there. I think the Dunroyal race took 6 minutes and 9 seconds, whereas the Betfred Chase last year I think took 6:42, and that was running good to stop. So it's just a much stiffer test, probably equivalent to 2 furlongs more of a test. It is a very ground-related bet because he won't run unless the ground is decent. But I think it's been one of the driest Novembers or October, Novembers on record now at the moment, and the long-term forecast looks particularly dry into early next week. So the double whammy is you're getting maybe good ground for him, and hopefully ground that a lot of the fancied ones in it won't, like the Grey Dawning, Royal Pagay would be both horses that were preferred on the soft side. So if it does run up good, do they even run? And if they do run, they're probably at a little bit of a disadvantage, and Hewitt would have race fitness on both of them. So yeah, he's kind of a generally at the one there. Entries come out in the last day or two. Very much weather. It's weather related. You have to hope the weather stays okay. But what are we? 2.5 weeks.
5 weeks. 4.5. Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks. I think it's 21st November. We're recording on the 5th of November here. Yeah, it's a lot sooner than you might think. So, Hewitt for me in the Betfair.
Let me ask you, Tony. Let me ask you, have you pulled the trigger yourself at that?
I backed him in a big or Stephen, to be honest. I backed him after.
But you have backed him. That's
backed him. Yeah.
It's not a token Dermo holding your elbow behind your back.
I've actually backed him after watching the Royal race, and John Hanlon said yes, he's going for the ground permits.
Yeah, I had in my head that's the first week of December, and you're looking at Grey Dawning wouldn't run, you'd imagine, and Corbett's Cross mightn't run if the ground was good, and definitely Hoy Senor, Ile Francais won't run, Lampress won't run. Yeah, so you could be half that on the day, kind of a thing. Yeah, like that. Sorry, Tony, and you're going into your dark horses for the season then.
Yeah, we just the one Robert Taylor trained better times. Look, if most of these middle grade Irish trainers these days, they have to just be targeting handicaps at this stage. There's a maiden hordes, beginners chases are all kind of impossible to win. So Tyner's actually got a really good record in handicap chases in the last while, particularly for JP McManus. A lot of those winners for JP McManus is probably more of a winter trainer in between kind of November through to April. Better Times had already won a valuable handicap chase at Nav in the novice handicap final there, March 23. Season probably didn't work out from last year, and he kind of came back late. I think he'd a run and go and over 18 furlongs early doors. Well, it wasn't early doors for him. It was in February. Then he went to Easter meeting at Fairyhouse. He just ran into one there. Like he ran into Scottish Grand National winner in a kind of an ordinary handicap chase there. Like Diarmuid had no hope there. And he might have still been leading the run. And then an excellent effort then a punch down the Pat Taff. Little bit unlucky. Travelled best. Made a mistake at the last. Just couldn't get going again in time. The winner had the far rail, which had them bits. I do think he's well handicapped. But again, you're going to be waiting for rain at this stage. He's one of a slow ground type of horse.
And can I ask?
First of all, Cass, our listeners are going to be thrilled because Robert Tyner is a long friend of this podcast, and I've taken some slatings, Tony, over the years for putting up Tyner horses. Secondly, though, sorry, Cass, I actually forgot to put up my bet, which is I've packed one horse only, and it's Cargazy for the Mare's Hurdle. I just think she's like there's 12 to 1 out there, but obviously that's only with one crowd. But she's basically, I think she was brilliant last season, absolutely outstanding, improved as the whole season went on. She was rock solid. And looking at the top two, both of them, listening to Gordon Elliott last Friday talking to Gary O'Brien, it really did sound like he wants to have a pop at the Champion Hurdle with her. Lossy Mount does seem that way as well. Now, this all changes if El Constitution Hill comes out and he kicks them aside. I'd say they do revert back. But you could potentially be getting 10, 12 to 1 about a horse who will be an awful lot shorter if those two popped out. So that would be my thing. So, Cass, who's your duo?
Well, it'll be actually linked to Cargazy or Cargazy, I think is how I heard someone say how he said it. But anyway, it'll be linked to that. I watched back the Triumph this morning, and I couldn't believe how well Salver ran on, given that in typical English jockey fashion, Majborough and Cargazy were being held on to, and Salver and some other yoke bit off around the bend down the hill like they always do. And Salver managed to stay on stronger than Stormheart and stronger than all the rest of them. Finished third. The only time he's ever been beaten, they really left the boots behind him. Now he was off 128 then. I think he went up £15 for his third the triumph.
Yeah.
But geez, it was an awesome run if you watch it back. You could really mark him up now, and I think wouldn't have been far off the Cargisi and Marlborough jump in the last. So I think in a weak 2 mile division, you've Constitution Hill, you've Sergino, but he could be in the mix of being the best of the English horses. So when you get to the grade 2s and the grade 3s coming up now, the likes that like a race that Rubo would normally be winning, he'd be one I'd really watch. I think he's got loads of ability and is a bit of a weapon. So we'll see what the Moors get out of him. So he'd be my one to watch. I think that 4-year-old form is good, Dermo, and I like your angle there with Cargisi. I'd say even going up in trip, she'll be much better. So the 2.5 of the Mare's Herd is really going to suit her. And then in terms of a bet, I really, really like one. My favourite race of the whole year is the Coral Gold Trophy. And I knew, like, me being the corporate minded one, I said I better give an English horse here, because I knew the two of you'd be looking at Robert Tyner horses. Although, Dermo, you were 1 to 9 to be the one tipping it. But look, I've had a right good look at the Coral Gold Cup, and Midnight River is 20 to 1. He's 16s with Betfred, and it's definitely way too big. Chianti Classico, the favourite, isn't going to go there, right?
Horse. You love him, don't you?
I like.
Didn't you?
I did a January at Cheltenham 1 year. Now I wouldn't be one for going back to horses. I'd look at every race on its merits. But I was going through. I was going through the race, and look, he travelled great in the race last year. He was up in the van, which you need to be. He had the tactical speed. And what happened was, I think it was about 3 down the back, he jumped it and he skidded on landing and kind of went out on all fours like Devon Locke style nearly. Pulled up, out for the season. But he was running an absolute belter of a race. He would have been the shake-up. He was 156 that day, £3 lower now. He's 9 years old. He's not going to get any better. But if there isn't an unexposed novice coming through, which I don't think there is, he's 20 to 1. He's way too big. He had a spin at Weatherby there last week, over 2 mile 3, way too short for him. Travelled really strongly, not beaten far. Skeltons are unbelievable at targeting a horse for a handicap. You remember they won this 2 years ago at Lemilos. Last year they were targeting handicaps left, right and centre. They won the Beecher and so on. That might be the year before. But look, I just think he's about 5 or 6 points too big. If you're getting 16s at 20 to 1, I think he's double the price he should be. So Midnight River is my bet in the Coral Gold Cup. That my horse to follow then would be Salver. So look, we'll go on and we'll have a look at the racing from the weekend. And Tony, you said you were watching Down Royal, so we start with you. We're not going to go through all and any, but what did you think? I suppose I'll ask you because it was the big race. Dermo, I know you want to talk about En Violin, but Tony, I'd be interested to hear what you thought of Jerry Colomb.
I agree with the trainer's interview today. He said he was better after 3 fences. I agree with that completely. Going out in the second circle, he was coming off it. Like he shouldn't be doing that. He says they couldn't find anything physically wrong with him. They've scoped him again. They're going to test his bloods. But his overall consistency, he would be a horse that would bounce back. He's always been a horse that, to me, has been better at the end of the season rather at the start of the season. 2 big efforts to come at Cheltenham and Aintree, both of his novice chase seasons. I wouldn't be too worried about him. Speed test round and ride didn't super. I think he was beaten before, the type of race there was came into play. So you have to forgive that. But overall consistency, I'd expect him to bounce back sooner rather than later. I like Tuick out of it, as I kind of said. I just think the emphasis on speed didn't suit him. And Envoy and then loves the kind of speedy 3 miles, but it's probably the peak effort from him for the season, as the Royal often is.
And any of the novices catch your eye? I mean, we had Firefox, we had Romeo Coolio.
Not really. Look, you're into the same kind of stuff with Gordon Elliott here. No one wants to take him on. Like, I think, what do you have? 8 winners over the weekend. 7 of them were 11 to 10 or short, or the exception was a 4-1 winner and a handicap. Like, Henry de Brom had ran a few against them, but it's very hard to. Like, you couldn't be impressed with what Romeo Coolio did. I thought found the 50 jump really well. Firefox, I thought he was fine. The other 2 were quite close to him now. For a horse that was rated a hell of a way above Mossy Fen Park, a big stage, I thought he might have won a little bit further, but he was going to be eased down. Rider Days the Head, I suppose, the one we may come back and talk after Jim has covered his thoughts on Envoy.
Okay, we'll come back to Brighter Days Ahead. Romeo Coolio now, I thought he was little bit tail flashy. He jumped brilliant, but he's a bit tail flashy, and he was a bit tail flashy up the hill at Cheltenham as well. I just wonder, he's got a high head carriage. I wonder in the heat of battle what he's going to be like. Don't be laughing at me, Dermot. Come on, try
No,
to be
I
serious.
love him. I just laugh, and this is just like Abacadabras all over again. Cass hates him, I love him. Every season there's one horse, Tony, that Cass hates, and I love.
No. Well, I don't hate Romeo Coolio yet. Anyway, that's for sure.
I thought the Gold Cup.
One of these horses I used to hate back in the day, and you can't hate him anymore, was Envoy Allen. So he's the one you want to talk about, Dermot.
No, it's just, all I want to talk about is just how exciting now the Gold Cup division could be, with the fact that, you know, Jerry Colomb now, there's kind of proper blood in the water now after the weekend. As in, had Jerry Colomb kind of kicked on, you'd be looking now again at him being right to the fore of the market. Envoy Allen, he's not going to be a factor for a Gold Cup. Hewitt, he could place, maybe. He's not going to be over in the UK. I thought the Real Whacker was impressive, but again, we know where we stand with him. It does leave the door open now for either Galopin Des Champs to obviously stamp his class again. But the overall market itself, now the Gold Cup market, that's a market where you could easily find a decent price. Even like, you know, the likes of Spillane Tower, he's a huge price in that. You know, it's a serious market. It's one to kind of definitely watch as the season goes on. But the real note I thought as well for the last few weeks is how well Dara O'Keefe has really taken his chance now from Rachel Blackmore's injury. He's just been flawless. I thought that was an absolutely superb ride. He took the speed out of the race at the end. He had the horse there. Envoy Allen can kind of flatten in the finish, but he made sure that there was just enough left. I thought it was an absolute peach of a ride. It's just very interesting that Henry de Bromhead, obviously, as the season roll on, Rachel's not getting any younger. Dara O'Keefe is all of a sudden in a really beautiful position, and it's a serious market, but he's a jockey that's kind of definitely now has a big chance this year now, Cass.
Yeah, big year for Dara O'Keefe. He's going to be getting more and more rides, it seems. Envoy Allen, he has won a grade 1 in each of the last 6 calendar years now. Isn't that unbelievable? I was looking at Altior. How many calendar years in a row would you say he won a grade 1?
4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, correct. Tony, I'll give you Silvianaco Conti. I would have said Altior was 6 as well, but 4, yeah. So Silvianaco Conti, Tony.
Feed.
4, yeah, he's 5, right? So for Envoy Allen to be belting them out 6 calendar years in a row, I think is amazing. Cato and Hurricane Fly were 7, so they were the two you'd think would have more. But geez, the way he's going, he could win that Down Royal race next year and match them. For a disappointing horse, he's had one hell of a career. You got to give him that. Tony, you touched on brighter days ahead there. Bit leery at the last, but everyone seemed to be very impressed with her.
I don't really know. You could take an awful lot from the race. I think things worked out well for Daddy Longlegs. Sort of said he was going to race very keenly over the first couple, which set up pace that went much higher than they did in the two kind of previous race over the same course and distance. Daddy Longlegs, Jock Perry, she kind of took it up after the third. And I don't know, was it ever in doubt? After that, the stablemate was kind of coming off a small setback. So I don't know that the form mean anything, but what I would be positive on, I was kind of amazed at the change that they've made. Like this one was supposed to be going intermediate trips, chasing, whatever, 3 months ago. And now she's not only going hurdling, but they're talking about going 2 mile hurdling now. Yeah. So, like, it's very ballsy out of Elliot. And I think, Diarmuid, you were saying to me, and I spotted it myself in a couple of interviews, that he was basically saying, I'm kind of been pigeonholed now as a trainer of staying horses and things like that, and I'm kind of maybe going to prove a point here with this mare that I can train horses that are a little bit faster than that. And yeah, I lean towards that he's probably right in what he's doing, because it's too big a risk to kind of get it wrong. If they were sure she's going to be a top class chaser, I think they can make a top class hurdler out of her first, they may as well try. Now, the one thing I did have a look at his record in the champion hurdle, he's run 7 horses in the champion hurdle, never won it. 4 of them have made the frame. But he would have a real tendency now to run a staying type of horse in the champion hurdle. He's run Tupu in it. He's run Zanahir in it, who would stay a bit further. He's run Irish Jade in it. Yeah, Irish Point, yeah. So they were 4. Zanahir ran more than once, of course. So that would kind of be lurking in the back of my mind. But I think based on what you think she can do over 2 miles in last year's down run would be a mistake. That was the biggest farce of a race at the festival last year in my eyes. They were just completely dawdled for, I'd say, 14 to 15 furlongs. She was far too keen. and was outspeeded by the Golden Ace mare. And look, Golden Ace was merit for winning it on the day, but I think what Jade DeGruge and Brighter Days Ahead did afterwards showed that it just didn't run the form.
And they were both watching each other, Tony, weren't they? I thought
definitely,
and Jack
yeah.
were just looking at each other and didn't even factor in the winner.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of got first run and things like that. You go down and she goes on to way into she didn't beat the horses Ballybourne beat in the 2.5 mile race at Cheltenham, roughly the same distance. Eel Atlantic and Jimmy Desai. Did they run the races? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. It was only a few weeks afterwards. But yeah, I thought the reaction to in the champion order mark there was a little bit muted. I think the reaction base said, Gordon, he's never going to run a champion hurdle. He's telling lies. He's definitely going to go back to the mayor's hurdle. Well, who knows? I got the impression he's definitely going to try her 2 miles in a grade 1 at some point. Morgiana's probably a bit soon. Maybe Christmas might be more suitable. Maybe the DRF might be more suitable. He didn't give her an awful hard time during the winter last season. She ran at the Royal and then she was off into the Navan in February. So maybe it won't be the DRF. But yeah, I wouldn't be massively surprised if she did make up into a champion hurdle horse. And we're going to kind of find out as well, if Lossie Mountain Horror are going to win against Statement, are we going to get her answer to what's the best of the Irish in mid-February or early February, should I say, or Christmas? Or somebody's going to be going back to the mare, or are they all going to be turning up? Maybe there'll be nothing between them. I think it's a very interesting race, having been not that interesting probably going into last season, but looking like just a case of Constitution Hill turn it up.
Yeah, could be a hot champion hurdle division, whatever ends up in it, but there's plenty of horses there. And even like we're saying, you've Sergino, and you might, like I was saying, Salver, a bit of an outsider, but there's more to it this year than there was last year, that whole division. That's very true. And else you want to touch on, Tony, from the weekend, if there was...
Yeah, the thing, I think you kind of mentioned it there already, this 4-year-old crop seemed to be quite a decent crop. Conti has pitched up and won that handicap hurdle at the Royal on Saturday. Again, race probably run the suit, strongly run race would have suited her. Off these juvenile hurdles do stay well. Elliot said that she wasn't fully fit, so again, that just probably spoke to how well handicapped she was. I think she was off 130 here. 4-year-old in Ireland are having a very good record in the handicap hurdles so far this year. I've just run a bit of a look at the stats there. They've had a 10%, nearly pushing for 11% strike rate in open handicap hurdles so far in 2024, was all the other age groups combined are operating around, I think it's about 7%. They're profiting the back there. I think they're 48 points in profit and actual over expected of 1.9. This was a big handicap hurdle win. Nürburgring won the Galway hurdle. Dawi was second. I think there were a couple of good 4-year-old winners of open handicaps. Punchestown, Eagle Fang won an all-age novice hurdle at Punchestown. And that kind of feeds into the horses that, not only these kind of 4-year-old handicap hurdles, kind of horses both of you are chatting about there, to me, you could make a case that Jargesi was possibly the best of them last spring. I know she only won at Punchestown, but Cheltenham, she went like the best horse for long. It mightn't have the scope of Maisborough to improve, but then Aintree pulled far too hard. Then a really good performance at Punchestown would come off a slow pace and they kind of going away. And even that horse, I suppose the favourite for Supreme is actually a 4-year-old at the minute, the horse that ran in the Triumph.
Salvatore
Mundi. Yeah, he was sixth in it. So, it's just an angle people could be considering. I do think they're quite a strong. Some of these 4-year-olds are absolutely terrible when they win the open company, but I don't think these are going to be that type of group.
I think that talk you often hear of 4-year-olds struggling in an open company, I think it's completely overblown. Like you had Espartella, and you've lost a few. Yeah, you obviously had Catch It. Yep, Punjabi.
I guess most of the horses who struggled at 4 years old in open company, I heard Paul Keeley say this the last day, most horses that struggled at 4 years old in open company would have struggled at 6 and 7 and 8 as well. It's not because they were 4, they just weren't good enough. That's all it was, literally. It's just it's nonsense. I agree with you.
I think there's been plenty of them perform very well, and you lost Sir Eric as well. Could have been a top class horse as well, and there was 1 or 2 went by with injury, and you've Sergino this year as well. I just think you kind of have something going for you if you're looking at the 4-year-olds normally, but we're all on that train on this podcast this year, so maybe it's a bit more obvious than we all thought. One horse I'd like to touch on, looking at the English side again, when I thought that real whacker, that race, I thought was absolute muck. I think the English Gold Cup horses, muck. But look, if there's a horse in England that could develop into a Gold Cup horse at the start of the season, I would have said it was Chianti Classico. What a horse he is. I love these UK handicap chases. It's completely different from Ireland, that you've competitive racing every Saturday. They're all trying. Like Chianti Classico, if you'd have 152 rated a horse in Ireland, it's either going Troy Town or it's going for Paddy Power Chase, and that's it. It's having a spin in Wexford and not trying or something like that. Not talking about anyone in particular. But I just love the way they do it. Now that's one side of the coin, right? But at the same time, the English trainers would drive you mad, because what were they doing with Chianti Classico, trying or even going for that race and going from the front and busting the horse? Like that race was worth 57 grand. The Coral Gold Cup, which I think he would have been a very hot, like 3-1 favourite for, is worth 100 grand more, and they're after going up £5 now for running an Ascot. Like the Coral Gold Cup is the race for him, and you know what they're doing? They're going to the Beecher Chase. And these English trainers, they all love the Grand National. And Kim Bailey, he's taking this thing, big old fashioned chase. The Grand National is going to suit him. He jumps way too big and bold for a Grand National. That's not the profile of a Grand National winner anymore. At the races, have you seen this? At the races, had that really good new tool, the jumping fluency tool. So it shows how much speed you lost going in 10 metres into an obstacle and the next 25 metres out. He was only the fourth best jumping according to that. He just jumped so big. I just can't understand English trainers sometimes doing it. Another horse I want to touch on, a Utopster on Friday, a real eye catcher. We'll move into the eye catcher section here because you might have one or two from the weekend's racing. But there was a horse called Walcadena of David Pikes. Now, it was only a mare's maiden hurdle. You wouldn't think much of it. But she absolutely bolted up. Brilliant jumper. And there's a lot of those crappy mares novice hurdles in England, the likes of Doncaster and stuff. She won't be fashionable. She won't be thought of. Gordon could have something coming over against her. But Walcadena, I think, for one of those races. Now the next 2 weeks.
Again, isn't he, Cass?
Pike seems to be firing
again.
Yeah.
He's starting to get a few back now, yeah.
We'll have to listen to Emma Kennedy with twice a year. Listen to Emmet when he gets David Pipe on. Tony, any eye catchers from the weekend? Dark horses to follow out of the handicaps or the maiden hurdles?
Yeah, the eye catcher from the handicap hurdle, the Calaconte one was definitely Telecon. The third, Ricky Doyle was on Racing TV on Friday evening. Are you chatting about that boxing match they're going to have there to raise a bit of funds for the chap that could hurt with the bail falling on top from. They asked him about his rides over the weekend. He was talking about Telecon. And Telecon would have looked like a handicap order on the up. Now, he won at Fairyhouse Easter, making really impressively. Must have been 2023, and then went to punch just out or on a track on a cut out the run and went really hard in front. And I think last kept on well at the fourth and was off for a long time. A couple of runs in the flat there this summer. Yeah, didn't really cover himself in glory. Coming off a break there, 4 months on Saturday, and Ricky Doyle was kind of asked, well, are you fancying him or what do you think? He says, no, tomorrow will be just about getting him, positive experience, getting him back on track. And they changed tactics on him completely. A horse is a natural prominent racer, not an out-and-out front runner. He dropped out near last, big drifter, kind of single figures in the Betfred Open. I'd say Betfred SP, the high 30s, 40s. But to me, nothing travelled better than him through the race. Came cruising there, kind of down the hill. Jockey gave him quite an easy time in the run between the last two. Mistake at the last. To me, he's just going to improve a lot for this. Now, I don't want these eye catchers or tracker horses to be just horses that are making kind of late headway type of things. I think there has to be a little bit more to them than that. I think with this case, it's the break, plus the jockey comments, plus the tactics change. And I would also think going to the Fairyhouse, probably for the big handicap order, at Hatton's Grace meeting, which is worth way more than the Down Royal race at a track where he's won before impressively, is probably the plan, and I'll be expecting them to go a bit more forward with him than that did on Saturday.
Very good. Another horse in that race was the second Helvic Dream, who the plan would have been maybe to go to that Fairyhouse race, but I thought he travelled the best horse in the race, Tony, and should have gone on and won, hit the last. He maybe doesn't quite get home over 2 miles, but I'd say what might be done now with him is go for...
You're the man about the attitude now. What do you think of his attitude lately?
A Helvic Dream?
Yeah, I didn't think he looked great now a couple of times. I didn't think he looked great in the stall. I don't think he quite gets home, Tony. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe that's it.
Well, they had a theory on softer ground that he didn't really jump out of it, and then he got good ground on Saturday, and he jumped worse than he ever did.
Long time on the flat, I suppose. Maybe that's the thing with the hurdle. He did go late to the jump scale.
Yeah, you see, he is finishing out his races very well on the flat. I think it's the trip. The 2 miles kind of kills him over hurdle. So what I think they'll do with him is maybe go for the Betfred hurdle and give him or a big handicap hurdle at Newbury, give him a cider, I was heard, is on one of those dead level flat tracks, hope for a bit of okay ground, and he might just fall in over 2 miles, because if it was 1 mile 6 on Saturday, he would have bolted up. You know what I mean? I just wonder about the trip with him. You know, he's really a 10 furlong 40, a 10, 12 furlong horse in the flat, and maybe just doesn't quite get the 2 miles. He's a hard one now to know what to do with. But sure, look, he's plenty of prize money this year, and he'll show up in those big races. I don't think the Fairy House race will be for him, though. Don't think he'll jump well enough. What did you think, Tony, while I'm still with you? Did you notice Faithful Follower, the horse that was second in the bumper at Down Royal on Saturday to the Hot Pot? Did you spot him? He was another switcher from Paul Hennessy to Emma Mullins. I know you're only catching up with the racing, but
I did see that. Jockey was very inexperienced, shall we say?
Yeah. Well, I thought he went for him at the end, surprisingly. John Gleeson came in 3 there. I thought he gave him a good ride, but he was beating 27 lengths to 42 lengths for Paul Hennessy, and then he went to Emmett and he went off 8-1, and he scared the pants off a 2-9 shot. You know, I thought it was fairly interesting now. So Javrock Cavern, the horse that went off favourite for the Ebor, was the Ebor? No, the Cesarewitch. He made the same switch. So I'll be watching those stable switchers from Paul Hennessy to Emma Mullins this year. Dermo, have you any eye catchers from the weekend?
Sorry, I'm talking about the wrong horse. I'm talking about the horse that was second in the bumper on Friday. No, we just moved swiftly on to that because I don't want it to jockey.
Yeah, you're libeling John Gleeson there now, and he was trying very hard.
I'm totally libeling him. No, he's very inexperienced jockey riding the one on Friday, so we'll leave him start now.
Okay, I must watch that one back. Dermo, any eye catchers?
You're done. Fantastic. Right, Brandt, trained by Keane Collins, I thought was serious eye catcher. That he just joined from Henry Oliver last year, and he's a much better chaser than a hurdler, and he's a bit of a bio, but he absolutely flew home for 5th. I think if you get him over some terrible 3 mile handicap hurdle there at Navan or Naas, I think there's a definite win in him. Ivy Brook was a serious eye catcher behind Romeo Coolio. He did absolutely everything wrong. This trainer and this owner had a double in 2022 and went close last year as well at the Easter meeting at Fairy House. Tend to target these kind of horses at this. Now, he's a very young horse. He's a really talented horse. I love that he did so much wrong and still was on the bridle turning in. He's one that I think would turn up now in a handicap at Fairy House next Easter, and I think this horse is definitely one to follow. I think he's very, very good. And then finally, a bit of a higher class horse, but I really liked what Mossy Fen Park did behind Firefox. I think there's a touch of Heartwood to him. He'll keep knocking away in these kind of chases behind very, very good horses, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him pop in now off a decent mark and do what Heartwood did last season. They spent a fortune to keep him, 260 grand or something, so they aren't messing around. He's not up to Firefox, but I do think Firefox is very, very good. But I think Mossy Fen Park, I loved how he jumped. He probably was flattered at the end. I think Firefox, gun wasn't properly put to his head at all, but I would have a small question about him in the finish as well anyway. But I thought Mossy Fen Park, he did what he could. There's a definite ceiling to him, but I just think he could emerge from his 3 starts now with a decent mark, and he's one to 100% stay on the right side of.
Okay, so that's our dark horses and our weekend review wrapped up. We're going to have on this podcast, the review podcast as we call it, we'll have a talking point every week. And look, it's been dealt with in other podcasts, but I suppose we have a lot to say on this. And the gambling bill in Ireland is a very important piece of legislation, and there's a lot to go through. I read it myself yesterday, and I didn't even realise they were going forming a new regulatory authority around the whole thing. So I thought that was interesting. Tony, I think I'm going to you first on it. So you have a few points to make on the repercussions of this gambling bill and what it means to all of us.
Yeah, well, look, I suppose I better get my agenda and vested interest out of the way at the start. Like, look, I hate to write about the sport and talk about the sport. So I do have a massive vested interest in horse racing, do well. But I am also kind of follower of the sport. Before I was ever paid to write and talk about it. And I kind of would like to be a follower of the sport in 10, 20, 30 years. I'd like it to be thriving because I do enjoy it so much. I suppose in England, like, I've watched the stuff with the Gambling Commission in Britain, like, and not really my place to comment, not really my jurisdiction, but I've watched with horror, to be honest, a lot of the stuff that's gone on, and I have great fears the mistakes that they're making are going to be kind of repeated here. Look, no one's going to argue that regulation in gambling wasn't needed. Like, that has to be a starting point, but within that, I would have a few views on it. I suppose the tone of what they're saying and what is written in the act, like two thoughts I would have is like the people who are putting it together would know little or care little about gambling, and kind of as a consequence just see it as this kind of social ill. Like you're starting with the junior minister who's kind of piecing it together here, James Brown. Like I think his approach just from the very get-go was to present himself as a hard man that's going to put a bit of manners on the gambling companies. Like there was an interview with him on Virgin Media, and the presenter asked a very valid point about whether he'd been lobbied by the gambling companies in the run-up, and he says, yeah, very extensively, but his response was very dismissive. He said, just kind of ignored all of it. Just presenting the gambling companies is completely like excited the villains. Like it's had like the plenty of issues, but surely working together with them is a better approach than setting up this big massive conflict and adversarial relationship. Like I just don't think that's a good starting point. Like they're just absolutely bashing heads with each other. I do get the sense just the whole tone of it is like we're moving towards gambling, like not been this kind of acceptable pastime. Like I'm wondering are people who have a bet been considered at all? Like we're not all degenerates. I really want to stress that gambling can be a bit of fun, and for a lot of people it does kind of improve their lives. Like it teaches many lessons, lads. Like there's no one more resilient than punters, just think about the people who have backed the Sterling for lunge over all the years. Like those people are the hardest of the hard. Like they keep coming back for more.
Yeah. It teaches you to be a good loser anyway. That's the one certain thing. You learn to lose in life.
Absolutely, and I really like that is the case. Look, my area and our area, should I say, like I do think gambling on sports seems to have been hit quite hard in this. Like as it's kind of been well covered, there is a threat to the racing stations there, which are very, very important for people following the sport. Like I used to go racing once a week, like, but now I have young children. You two guys are on the same boat. Like you do need somewhere to follow it, and watching the stations, are there. They're very important, and also it's very frustrating to see some of the areas that aren't been covered, like National Lottery, say, and more modern day things like these radio, draws and internet raffles like Oosh and Lucky Day competitions. These like they aren't been hit at all. Now there seems to be no mention of them at all.
No mention. I specifically look for that cash builder they have on Today FM and News Talk, that suite of stations, which I think is a scandal. The way they just push it and push it and push it every 5 minutes. Text in, get the money off the punters non-stop. Not one mention of it.
And to me, I would find them very, very cynical. The margin on some of these products, these draws, is absolutely huge versus someone maybe betting on sports. At least with the sports betting, like, there are hassles and this and that, but you have a chance with the margin. Like, I know I'm going to be accused of whataboutery with that, but I think if you're going to be hitting race and hitting sport, you do have to mention of. Another thing that kind of was included in a relatively small part of it, but something that interests me is this thing called the Social Impact Fund. Like the gambling companies are going to be paying some sort of a levy into this, from my understanding, and again, it's going to pay for I'm just using their words, not mine here. It'll pay for research, training, public education, the provision of services. Like it is quite vague what they're going to do with it, but again, I'm using their words here. It has to be to do with compulsive and excessive gambling. Now, as a teacher, I can think that education just needs to be much broader than that. Like the only show in town can't be recovering addicts. Like they do have an important story to tell. I've seen some of these fellas in action from institutes are very, very powerful speakers, very important things to say. But I do think there needs to be more in terms of education than just that. Like how does gambling work? What to watch out for? What are the dangers? All this type of stuff. And also, along with the kind of problem gambling stuff, like I would like to see some education, but I'd also like to see them, do some intervention with bad bookmaker practice, like some of the stuff that's unacceptable around paying people out and things like that. Like, to me, the Gambling Commission in Britain just completely opted out of that. They just said, no, that's not our remit, when they really could have pushed to do something with that, and a fair crowd are going to do the same. Look, it's not a really particularly appetizing topic to talk about. It's a bit annoying, a bit frustrating when you start thinking about. Of course, I'm a bit worried about the future of gambling, where it fits in society at the moment. But here, look, lads, we're going to spend the most of the show here over the next couple of weeks and months. Hopefully, we have to just keep trying to find 7-2 of it, 7-4 shots, not to be completely depressing about it. But yeah, it wouldn't have made appealing reading for me anyway.
Yeah. Look, and I know what you're saying. That we have to be positive and upbeat about racing, but we are in this podcast, and we will be. But I do agree, this is a serious issue. And to be honest with you, I think the bookmakers who haven't covered themselves in glory in terms of not having closing accounts too quickly, doing KYC too quickly, no late to lose guarantees. They haven't done anything to endear themselves to punters, but the way it's going, I think the bookmakers will turn against racing because it's easier, higher margin stuff. If there's more onerous administration on them, and when racing is seen as a problem gambling product, then they just push the easier stuff with the higher margin that they can get. If it's smaller bets, they need higher margin. That's the end of it. Dermo, you're closer to this in terms of how the industry works. I have no idea what you do for a living in the gambling group because it's too confusing to me. But it's some kind of affiliate thing, and you're dealing with gambling companies the world over. I always hear you.
Yeah, so I'm the commercial lead here in the Gambling.com group. So we're one of the biggest affiliates in the world. So we're obviously directly involved with all of this. Again, all the compliance side of all this kind of stuff here. I mean, first of all, like a lot of this needed to happen. Ireland was what we call a grey market, so it just means that it kind of is self-run. Punters need to be protected, so an awful lot of this stuff needs to come in. It's the same worldwide. Italy, Germany, Sweden, Ontario recently, Alberta, Canada is going to be next year. There's an awful lot of regions. This is happening worldwide. This is not just Ireland or the UK. This is multiple countries around the world now are getting their stuff in order. First of all, had more companies operating in our space, operated with a modicum of decency, this wouldn't have happened. So this has been brought on as well, like on ourselves because of some rogues. Secondly, though, this is being run by a government, lads, that can't build a children's hospital for less than 500 million. We're 1.3 million. We're 5 years over, and we're trusting them now with literally like a gambling bill. Racing TV flagged during the week that they have to pay 2 million now to have advertising from bookies now on their channel, because you have to launch a different channel. Basically, for me to be targeted now with betting ads, I need to pay for Racing TV. As I do, then I also need to opt into betting ads. So they now have to have two streams. Racing TV, they announced this. They said what the issue was. The minister, Brown, he came out and said, but the contract's worth hundreds of millions, just pull 2 million back from that. Racing TV had to go back and say it's SIS who are the big dogs in this. So our own junior minister hadn't a clue how that contract is made up, how any of it works, and he's expecting now them to pay 2 million to kind of have the second channel. Sky Sports Racing are on about doing it, but Irish Racing is left in a serious spot now where we just mightn't have racing on TV, because again, the government, even the UK, and Tony Keenan started this by saying that he was horrified by what's happening over there. Even in their whole plan, they have in their section, racing needs to be treated differently on TV than all other sports because betting is intrinsically linked with it. So imagine, even the bill that we're all horrified looking over the water at, they even have themselves in a better position than we have ourselves in, because they understand that betting and racing is so linked to those TVs. But last but not least on this, these bills are designed to kind of protect punters, but when they're done incorrectly and when they're not done as well as they should be, they only lead to more damage. So in Germany, which is one of the strictest places now, they brought in this rule where it's €1 max spin for an online game. I could be Donald Trump punting. It doesn't matter. You can prove your wealth. No, it's €1 max spin. That's the rule. What that has actually led to is last year, the University of Leipzig, they did a whole study on it, and 50% they worked out of the market now in Germany has now turned black. So that's 1.37 billion. That's now in the black market because they've overdone it. Basically, punters now that want to be kind of to bet a bit more. And Sweden, where it's also very strict, it's estimated there that 28% of people in online casino are gone black, and 20% of sports betting have all shifted over to the black market. So this is well intentioned. They want to protect punters and all the rest of it, but by overdoing it, just like the Irish government is really treading really carefully too, we are basically chasing vulnerable people right into the arms of these companies that they don't have to have morals. There's nobody legislating what they do. So you could win big and they'll just go, no, sorry, best of luck to you. So all this work, all this everything, and all these countries in Europe, we're all trying it. And the second you don't let proper bettors and proper gamblers into that room with you, you end up with an absolute mess. And Germany is literally throwing away millions of tax money now because they've all gone black. So it just has to be really careful, Cass, and I don't think Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil have got this right at all. Really don't.
Yeah, well, the worry as a racing fan for me is the social contract that we have as a sport. You know, while we were growing up, betting wasn't frowned upon. You know, you're able to go in, have your couple of pints if you want, or go in and have 10 cent. You see a lot of old fellas go in and have their 10 cent, 10p lucky 15s. My granddad used to do it on Charlie Swan, and it gave him a great interest. You'd hear Aidan O'Brien making this point the whole time. Betting is cerebral. You know, it's a puzzle, and it's a wonderful thing, and it gives people a great interest and a great way to pass the time. But I think that just socially, people are looking to be offended at all costs, and they don't like it, so everyone else can't like it, and you know, there's just no liberty anymore with it, if you ask me.
You're like an old man. They're woke, Cassidy. They're all woke.
Well, I to be honest now, I'm on the side of those woke people.
I know you are.
But when it comes to betting, you know, I do think I think civil liberties, you should be allowed to make your own decisions with your own money, you know. Tony, on that, right? This is off topic, but how are you going to treat your children when it comes to betting? So when we were small, we would have had little bets in the house, and my children are 8 and 6 now, and they're getting to be conscious of of racing TV, but on the TV the whole time. And have you had a bet on this race, Daddy? They might ask me once in a blue moon, and you explain about betting. Would you have a problem with, you know, as a teacher, you're seeing it? How do you feel about exposing kids to the discussion of the sport?
You have to get a question I'll answer, like in school about gambling, obviously no issue with that at all, so I can give them, hopefully I would have a bit of knowledge to answer that. With my own kids, look, I wasn't actually brought up in a racing house at all. I kind of got into it in college. I don't even know how I kind of got into it, but it was very much what you're saying there, the cerebral kind of study part of it. I wouldn't be encouraging, like I wouldn't be taking them racing and saying, God, you have to have a bet and stuff like that. I like them to kind of explore their own interests, but at the same time, I wouldn't be scaring them away from it and things like that. Like it's whatever you're into yourself. But I definitely wouldn't be going down the road of what do we say, setting it up as something that deserves to be prohibited or a prohibition type thing there, because I think Jeremy has hit the nail on the head there. All that ever leads to is the black market, and the tax take is one point about that, but more so that the utterly ruthless exploitative people that you're going to have who absolutely have no morals and no rules to follow, who are going to take punters and customers to the cleaners on every level, you know. So
yeah. Look, I know I have an important question on it, Dermo, and it doesn't apply to me. But if you have a dodgy box now, do you get the feed with the betting ads or without?
I would imagine you'd get the UK fee, but I don't know. I actually do pay for it now, Cass. So that's
no, so do I. Yeah,
that's your own problem.
Yeah.
But Stephen, you're hitting something that's actually quite interesting. The Irish psyche, like the Irish psyche now, you know, maybe be a bit more tending towards the rule breaking and things like that. Historically, you know, the outlaw mentality, and when regulation comes in, like, do tend to find a way around that, and I hope that the lads who are putting the bill together have considered that, because they
really
will be.
There's not one mention of. Yeah. There's not one mention, Tony, of going after black label companies. There's not one mention. This is what Sweden and Germany fell down. Italy are brilliant at this. They've been well on top of it. You have to not only make rules, you also have to have a plan in place how to get the black casinos out, black betting companies out. There's no plan in there at all. I think we're gonna be sitting towards 25-30% if all this comes in. I think I really do.
Okay, well, yeah, so I hope we don't talk every week about the future of racing, because we could talk about whips and we could talk about gambling bills and we could talk about ability to get on and so on, but we will touch on these subjects as the season goes on. And are we finished up on that point, Tony? I don't know where you were kind of throwing around a few bits, but have we said everything we want to say?
All good.
We said everything we want to say. Okay, well, look, we should clarify that Dermo, when he was handing his daughter €2 to bet, his daughter's 24 years old, so there's no problem there. New sponsors, Betfred, don't worry about that.
Thank God, my 18-month-old daughter is not out of bed yet. Thank God, no.
Right, so look, that was our first episode back. Dermo, we have a tipping show on Friday. Do you want to touch on that? A Okay, sort of a
Tipping show
new
Friday,
look
Tom.
race hour.
Yeah, so Tom Lee and Tanya Stevenson are joined by two people every week. So the old Paddy Aspel's back and Gary Conley and all the rest of the lads. So it's a new look show on Fridays. And Cass, you and I will drop in the odd time as well. So yeah, look, all exciting. But Tom Lee and Tanya Stevenson are top class as well. So it's all going well, Cass.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, look, welcome back, Dermo. Welcome back, Tony. Welcome, Betfred. Welcome back, all our listeners. Like and subscribe. Great to be back, and we will chat to you all next week.